everyone, welcome back to my channel. Welcome to the final day of Bookmas. Welcome to the end of the year reading tag. Now, I am getting sick, so if I am breathing a lot, I apologize. I just can't breathe out of my nose. And if my voice sounds like I've been run over by a truck, it's because I have been. We are doing the end of the year book tag. I'm sure you've seen countless of other creators do this book tag. That is where I have gotten the questions from. I love watching other creators end of the year book tag. I love watching the various amounts of answers that people give for the book tag questions and the various amount of questions that you can have for the end of the year book tag. All of the questions I will be answering are in the description below if you would like to answer your very own book tag, if you would like to answer them in the comments, or if you want to do your own book tag, if you have a booktube or a bookstagram or whatever and want to answer them yourself, consider yourself tagged and answer the questions in the description below. I have them all written down here, my notes, and the books that I have with each question because, again, I'm sick and I'm tired and I can't remember what I was doing 4 seconds ago, much less the books I read in January at this point. So I had to come up with a list for myself, otherwise we weren't making it through this tag. Stay hydrated, friends. Now, I did recently post my top and bottom favorites of 2025. That was Bookmas Day 9, I think. I could be totally wrong. But that was a recent Bookmas video, and I yapped all day long about my favorites, about my least favorites of 2025, my highest and my lowest rated. And so go watch that video if you want to see any of my favorites or any of that content, because these are all new books besides a few questions. There's like maybe 2 questions where they are answers for, 3 maybe where they are questions for because I just had to use them. And I will let you know why. But otherwise, we are talking about all new books because I didn't want this to be a rinse and repeat video. I didn't want to keep talking about the same books because I would just yap about my favorite books of the year forever if you let me. I would talk about them forever. I wouldn't stop. I wouldn't shut up. That is why I picked all new books for these questions, and I tried to pick a different book for each question. I didn't repeat any books for any of these questions, so we're gonna get into it. The first question is the best recommendation I got from somebody in the year 2025, and that goes to Face Off by Chelsea Curto. This was one of my 12 recs from 12 friends in the year 2025. I believe I read this in September, October, maybe. It was pulled for my 12 rec from 12 friends, and I did end up reading it. I believe I read it in my 24-hour readathon. I could be wrong. Again, not a lot going on up here today. However, this book is the best recommendation I got that wasn't on my favorites list, that I was recommended by somebody else. This book took me by surprise. This is the DC Star series, the first book in the DC Star series. It is hockey romance. It is male, female. They both play hockey. They both play professional hockey on the same team. And he's the captain and she is the newest member of the team. And she is the first female in NHL, which is very exciting. I need to continue the series. The series has some of the best found family I've seen since Windy City, and this is probably one of my favorite sports romance books I've read since Windy City. Best recommendation goes to Face Off by Chelsea Curto. Oh, brother, we're gonna have a time. The next question is most disappointing book of 2025, and that unfortunately has to go to Wild and Wrangled by Lila Sage. I read all of the Rebel Blue Ranch series. Done and Dusted was not my favorite, but I liked it better than some of the other cowboy romances I had read previously. And then Swift and Saddled, I loved. It elevated it from done and dusted. And then we got Lost and Lassoed. Lost and Lassoed is one of my favorites from last year. I absolutely adored that book. It is my favorite Lila Sage book. So going into Wild and Wrangled, I was so excited for this book, and it just kept elevating, so I wanted that to be portrayed in Wild and Wrangled, and this book fell so flat for me. I did not like it at all. I think I gave it about a 2 stars generously, maybe even a 1 star, because I was so mad that I didn't enjoy this book. And unfortunately, it was just a big miss for me. There was a lot of back and forth and a lot about miscommunication. There's a very fine line when doing childhood friends second chance, and there's a very fine line in the miscommunication, and a very fine line why they weren't together that whole time. And if it's not good, if it's just kind of dumb, I will hate the book. And unfortunately, I do believe that is why I didn't like it, and several other reasons. It just was a big miss for me, and unfortunately, really disappointing. I had some other disappointing reads, but I mentioned those in my worst of 2025 vlog, day 9, I think, again. So I had to pick Wild and Wrangled because that one was really such a miss after coming off such a high from Lost and Lassoed. Again, one of my favorite cowboy romance books. So unfortunate. Our next question is best underdog book of the year, and I'm giving that to Second Bloom by Eve Matthews. I don't hear anybody talking about this book. This is independently published. I was so kindly sent this by the author. I read this in one of my summer reading vlogs, my summer reading challenges. It is a summer romance, second chance, small town Georgia, and she starts working at this flower shop, and all of a sudden this guy that she used to be with or have feelings for starts also working at the flower shop when he comes back into town, and she is going through a divorce. I really liked how slow burn it was, especially because she was in the midst of a divorce and in the midst of going through all of the things that she was going through. And I also really enjoyed how gentle our male main character was with her feelings and how she needed time and he gave it to her. I really enjoyed this book. It is independently published, and it is by Eve Matthews. Her second book, this was her debut book. I absolutely adored it. I think her second book comes out in 2026 sometime, and honestly, I loved every second. The spice was great. The pacing was so good. I really enjoyed it. Next question is the overhyped book I read this year. And I thought long and hard about this because everything hyped up, I pretty much liked because I am basic and I will like it. Sue me. But I did read one that wasn't just not my cup of tea, and that was Better Than the Movies by Lynn Painter. Unfortunately, this gets so much hype. This is the YA staple book. If you talk to anybody and they're like, I need a YA book, this mostly gets recommended to like everybody. This and The Summer I Turned Pretty. I have such a cute edition of this book too, and I didn't hate it. This just wasn't for me. I think I'm just growing out of YA, and there was a lot of miscommunication in this that I didn't like, but I feel like that's just a YA thing, and I didn't like it as much as I thought I would because it's so hyped up. I had a good time with it. I didn't absolutely hate it. I think I gave it still like 3 stars, but this just wasn't all it was cracked up to be to me. So unfortunately, this gets the most overhyped book award for 2025. The next question we have is a book that surprised you, and I'm giving this to Rebel Witch by Kristen Cicerelli. This is the second book in the Crimson Moth duology. The first one is Heartless Hunter, or I believe it's called Crimson Moth in the UK, and like Australia and other places, it's called Heartless Hunter here in America. But I read Heartless Hunter last year and thoroughly enjoyed it. I think I gave it like a 4 stars, maybe a 3.5. It was good. I was diving into fantasy. I read it right around the same time that I was reading Throne of Glass, so it was nice to have that kind of in the break of a bigger fantasy series. And then I picked this up because I wanted to finish the duology, and this was so good. I gave this 5 stars. I didn't expect to love this as much as I did. We're doing surprising in a good way, FYI, if you can't tell. This book was so good. The slow burn enemies to lovers that was still sizzling in this book, and more of the world that we got to see, and the fights that we got to see, the way that Rune just fought and fought and fought for what she believed in was so refreshing, and I absolutely loved every second of it. I did not want to put this book down. It is still, I think about it to this day. It was so fun, and it surprised me how much I liked it because I wasn't in love with Heartless Hunter, but I am in love with this book, and I highly recommend the duology. It is about a witch and a witch hunter. It is set in like Regency era time, and witches are not allowed, but Rune, our female main character, is a witch, and she is out to basically overthrow this government and make it so that there is a safer place for witches. Next question, we have favorite book couples. I have 2, and this was so hard to do without my favorite books and my favorite books. Yeah, my favorite books of the year. It was literally the hardest thing I could have ever done, but I did it. Don't worry. Somehow I managed to pick 2 books. The first book I did pick was, wait for it, my Mariana Zapata, the couple in this book, Diana and Dallas. I absolutely loved. This is my favorite Mariana Zapata book, and I thoroughly enjoyed their dynamic and seeing Dallas with Diana and how patient he was with both her and the 2 boys that she's taking care of, because she actually gains custody of her brother's children when he passes away. So she is now their sole guardian. Dallas is so patient with them. Dallas is so patient with her. He is the youngest boy's baseball coach, and they are also across the street neighbors. They're not like next door neighbors, but they live across the street from each other. So he's just always there lending a helping hand. And he was so patient and so gentle with all 3 of them. It was so special. I absolutely love them. And Diana, for going through how much she's gone through, she is a baddie, and I love her. And this couple together, I would read a whole nother book about them. Wait for it is not small either. It's like 600 pages, and I wanted more. And the slow burn, so good. I know I said 2 books, but I think that the other one might be a spoiler, so I'm not going to tell you that one. We're going to move on to the next question, which is my favorite main characters. And I do have one for this one, and that is Phoebe from The Wedding People. I also got this recommendation in my 12 rec from 12 friends, and the more I think about this book, the more I like it. I think I rated it a 4 stars upon finishing my read of this book, but truly, this book is so good. Our main character, Phoebe, goes to this hotel. She's the only one in this hotel that's not a part of this huge wedding party that's there, but she's there for other reasons. She's literally there to end it all. She's at the lowest point of her life. However, she gets swept away by the bride, and the bride basically is like, "You're my new best friend, and you have to be my new best friend, and you have to be in my wedding, because now we're best friends." And the way Phoebe completely 180s her life in this book and just starts to look at life a completely different way made her one of my favorite characters I read about this year. And I truly loved this book and all of the characters in it. It was so funny. I was reading this and literally laughing out loud about this book. I truly enjoyed this book, but Phoebe, in the way that she was able to completely change her way of thinking and completely just, she was basically like, I'm at my lowest. And a few days ago, I planned on ending it all, but now I'm here with some crazy people who don't seem to have it all figured out either, but we're just doing it. And I'm going to say what I want now because I wouldn't have been here anyway. And the way that she just went about that was so incredible. And I want to be Phoebe, kind of. The post Phoebe. Right. Not the before Phoebe. You get it. You get what I'm trying to say. Next question we have is new favorite authors of 2025, and I have a few. I've read from plenty of new authors this year, and it was one of my goals to branch out and read new authors this year, and I found so many fantastic authors, and I'm going to put a few of them on the screen. One of them is Darcy Coates. I absolutely love her and her writing. All of the books that I've read by her have been fantastic. She writes horror books. Another is Mariana Zapata. I talked briefly about Wait For It earlier. That is my favorite book by her, but I did also read All Roads Lead Here this year, and both of those books were 5 stars. We also have Rachel Gillig. Rachel Gillig, I have read all 3 of the books that she has out, One Dark Window, Two Twisted Crowns, and The Night and the Moth. The Night and the Moth is my second favorite book of the year. One Dark Window is so special to me. I love that duology so much. It's crazy that I've never read Rachel Gillig ever before today. Before today? Wrong. Before this year, because now I will read everything this woman writes. I absolutely love her dark gothic fantasy, everything that she writes. The Night and the Moth, I say this every time, it defines me as a human. It defines me as a reader. It defines me as a human. I love that book so much. Literally can't believe that I didn't read Rachel Gillig before this year. And finally, we have probably my new favorite author of all time, Miss V.E. Schwab. I did not read V.E. Schwab before this year. 2025 is the year I found V.E. Schwab. 2025 is my favorite year because I found V.E. Schwab. V.E. Schwab means so much to me. I absolutely love everything this woman writes. I read so many books from V.E. Schwab because I could not get enough. I would literally give anything to be inside V.E. Schwab's mind, to sit down and have a conversation with her. Literally anything. I love her so much. I love V.E. Schwab. Victoria, I will do anything for you. Thank you. On the opposite hand, our next question is authors that didn't work out for you this year. And I was trying to think about some authors that I didn't really love this year that I read multiple books of, because I don't like to judge based on just one book. And only really one came to mind. I read Enigma and The Predator by Runex this year, and both of them got below a 3-star for me. I think a 3-star and below. The Predator is some people's favorite, this series at least, and I just didn't get the hype, I guess. It was okay. And then Enigma, I tried to read and I just did not enjoy my time at all. It was compared to Nocticadia and it was not giving Nocticadia at all to me, and I didn't care. So I might try to continue the Darkverse series at some point and give Runix another try, but for right now, unfortunately, Runix just was not the author for me this year. Next up, we have the Happiest book that I read this year, and I don't read a lot of happy books. I read a lot of sad books. Every single book on my 2025 favorites is a sad book. I do not read a lot of happy books, but I did read Problematic Summer Romance, and this very light, giddy feeling is probably the happiest book that I read this year. And that's why it's getting this little award for happiest book of 2025. This follows our main character, Maya, who's going to, where is she going? Ireland? Italy for her brother's wedding, and her longtime crush, her brother's best friend, will be there for the wedding. Little does she know that he has also had this crush on her for like forever, and they have had a situation before, and it's just a lot. But Miss Sally Hazelwood knew how to handle it, and I was so giddy and felt so light and summery and fun the entire time that I was reading it, and this was probably the happiest that I was while reading a book. I was happy while reading all my sad books. I just was also sad because they were sad. So, happiest book. Winner, winner, chicken dinner. Now, moving on to my sad book, the saddest book of 2025. This was hard because the saddest book I read, and some of the saddest books I've read, are in my favorites of 2025. So I had to pick something else. So I had to pick other books, and they just so happen to be these two. I also think that it's quite hilarious that these two books are my two best friends' favorite books of all time. And I read them for them this year and annotated them, and that's why I read them this year. My friend Maddie's favorite book is The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. The ending of this book crushed my soul, and I cried so hard at it. That's why it is going on the saddest book list. And my best friend Kurt, her favorite book of all time is The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue, and the ending of this book literally haunts me. If I have one gripe with V.E. Schwab, it's the ending of this book. My two saddest books, because all of my other sad books are in my favorites, are my two best friends' favorite books of the year. Of all time. Of all time. What does that say about us? I don't know. I don't know. But these were fantastic books. I gave them both 5 stars. Some of my favorites of the year, they just didn't outshine a book in a specific month. But these two books are fantastic and really sad endings. So, I don't know what that says about us three, but you draw your own conclusions. We're all readers here. We like to draw conclusions. Our next question is most frustrating book of the year, and I'm giving that to This Book Will Bury Me. This book frustrated me to no end because of the topics that this book concerns. This book is literally copy and paste the actual Idaho murders into a thriller book. And it gave me such a gross feeling when reading this that it frustrated me to no end because the case wasn't even like tried yet when you're writing this book. I don't even think he had pled guilty or was tried yet when the book came out, if I remember correctly, because this came out at the beginning of 2025. The ending of the book and the big plot twist and everything in this book does not follow the same line as the Idaho murders. And you're following this female who finds herself on like these Reddit subpages, kind of like chat groups that like to try and solve cases, like citizens trying to solve cases together. And that's where she finds herself, is with all of these people who actually decide to meet up in Idaho and figure out this case for themselves. But everything about this just gave me such an uneasy feeling because of how fresh the Idaho murders are still. And going to college during the actual Idaho murders and what was happening with those, I remember being so immersed into the Idaho murder stories when they were happening that this book threw me back into that time period and into that time in my life. It just overall gave me such a gross feeling, and I got really frustrated with this book. The writing was good, and I rated it based on the writing and based on that, but I just don't think that I will ever recommend that book to anybody because I can't do it. It just left me so uneasy. Moving on, best adaptation of 2025. I have only watched one, and it is Heated Rivalry. And honestly, period. The book to show adaptation, so good. So good. And we are all going to the cottage together this week. And I'll see you there, because I'm packing my bags. The book is phenomenal, 5 stars. If you've watched my Heated Rivalry Bookmas video, there is one out for that. But the adaptation, I did start the show. So good. Literally so good. And the edits on TikTok, so good. Literally pay these people. They're so good. I'm gonna get on a heated rivalry spy roll if I don't stop there. So we're gonna move on. Otherwise, we'll be here talking about heated rivalry for the rest of the video. And we cannot do that. No. The next question was favorite covers of the year. So I got a lot of special editions and I want to use this as an excuse to show them off. So I'm going to do that. The first one is my Night in the Moth special edition. This is literally stunning. It is the Fairy Loot special edition of The Night in the Moth. Stunning. 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 I am obsessed with this edition of The Night in the Moth. So she definitely deserves to be here. Did I mention The Night in the Moth in my favorites video because it's my second favorite book of the year? Yes, but this cover deserves some praise, so it's going in my favorite covers. Then we have 3 editions of Barrier Bones in the Midnight Soil. I own 7, but these 3 are my favorite. We have the Owl Crate edition. This is so pretty, and the first edition of Barrier Bones, the first special edition that I got of Barrier Bones. It's literally so pretty. Like, every little detail on these books is fantastic. Even the reverse dust jacket. Like, every single month, I could just change how they're displayed, and they would look different every single time because there's so much in these books. They're just stunning. And the slipcases are stunning. Every single aspect of these books are stunning. So I'm going to use it as an excuse to show them off because they're so pretty. Then we have the Illumicrate version of Bare Our Bones. This one is just a hardcover, but this art right here, so pretty. And the foiling and the roses, I mean, we're kidding. We're kidding. So pretty. So pretty. And the case. And then finally we have the bookish box version of Bare Bones. And this one is so pretty. I am obsessed with everything about it. And this one actually has its own like chapter headers and page headers in it as well, which I find so cool. And then the reverse dust jacket. This is probably my like favorite part of this book. Yeah, so those are all of the pretty editions I got. I also got the Fairy Loot edition, but I decided to just pick 3 because otherwise we would be here again talking about Barrier Bones all day, and I talked about that enough in my favorites video. So Barrier Bones, I have 7 editions. Another edition will be here in January. I'll show you guys when I get it, don't worry. Next up, we have a book you haven't stopped thinking about. Again, super hard to do. That wasn't a favorite. But I'm going to pick Shield of Sparrows by Devony Perry. I need the second book to this now. Now! And Red Tower, if you're watching this and would love to send a girl an arc of the Rites of the Starling, would love. Would love. Hey. Would love. This is Devony Perry's fantasy debut, and it was phenomenal. I read it. I absolutely adored it. I think I gave it 4.5 stars. The monsters in this world and the slow burn romance, it was just all so good and put together so well. And the cliffhanger in this book really got me. and I need the next book so bad. Our main character thinks that her sister is going to be the Shield of Sparrows princess. It ends up being her. She gets shipped off to another country to basically be their princess, but her dad wants her to spy on this country for them. But the monsters, the literal everything in this book has me so excited, and I cannot stop thinking about it, and I am really excited for the next book in the series to come out in April. Our next question is unpopular book you loved. The unpopular book I loved, kind of a hot take, I guess. The Compound. I know a few people that love this book, and I know a few people that really don't like this book. And again, as we mentioned before, I love to love things people love. So there's not a lot of things that I like that everyone else already doesn't like. But this one got some really mixed reviews this year after it came out, but I really enjoyed this, and the concept behind it, the reality show, the everything, I was hooked in on this book. I had so much fun reading it. I had so much fun discussing it with my book club and seeing all of the different ratings for this book in my book club. We had such a good time. And I really want this author to come out with another book because I really liked her writing style, and I really liked the concept of this book. It was so fun. So, kind of hot take, I guess. I know several people who do like that book, but I couldn't think of another one. So, it goes to that. On the flippity flip, a popular book that I didn't like, I am gonna have to go with City of Bones by Cassandra Clare. This book did not hit for me. I don't know what it was about this book, but it just didn't hit for me. And I have convinced myself that I'm going to give it a retry in the year 2026 so that I can read the Mortal Instruments and the Infernal Devices series by Cassandra Clare. But I think it was just the time that I read it and the way that I read it. I wasn't vibing with this book. So I am going to reattempt this book and the series itself and give it a whole nother try. Give it a redo-ski. I just found myself really not caring and dragging my way through this book. But I know so many people love this series, and I know so many people told me to retry and continue on with the series because it gets better. So I'm going to retry, I'm going to continue on. I just, upon my first read, wasn't a fan. Next, we have the book with the most unique concept, and I'm giving this to In Every Way by Danny McLean. This book is a choose your own adventure romance where you get to the end of the chapter and you get to choose which way the main character goes in the next chapter. If you have seen any of the choose your own adventure books from when we were kids, where it would be like flip to page 97 if you want her to enter this cave, flip to page 107 if you want her to return home. Those kind of books, except make it a romance, make it adult, and make it so fun. I had such a good time reading this. I thought the concept and the idea behind it was so cool, and I need more choose your own adventure romances because that was fantastic. And now I want to read every single choose your own adventure thing ever made. I can just read this book over and over again and get a different story every time with the same characters. It was so fun. Most unique concept for sure. Books I would reread in the year 2026. I have two. I read so many good books this year. Consider every single one of my favorites in that video one that I would reread, but I do have two that are not on that list that I do plan to reread in the future, possibly in the year 2026. The first being The Secret History by Tana Tart. This book I read all the way back in January. This is a dark academia. Everybody says if you like If We Were Villains, you'll like this book. They were right. Do I like it as much as If We Were Villains? No, not a chance. But this was such a fun time. Gave me all of the vibes that I wanted from if we were villains, and I had such a good time. I would definitely reread it. I think this is a book that every time I reread it, I will catch something new and dive deeper into the story, and I think I'm just gonna have fun every time I reread this book. So this is definitely one that I will reread probably in the fall time for many falls to come. The other one is One Dark Window by Rachel Gillig. This duology sucked me in. The unique concept with the cards and the magic and just the nightmare in her head, so fun. And by the end, I loved every single character in this book, in this duology, in the series. Yeah, I haven't stopped thinking about this duology since finishing it, and just the vibes and the aesthetic of this series. 10 out of 10. Would reread both this and Two Twisted Crowns. It was such a fun time. The amount of work that Rachel Gillig put into this to make everything cohesive and make sense, because everything connects to the trees and to the magic and to the lore, I appreciated so much, and it makes me want to reread it and just keep catching those little things that she put in there. Love it. The next question was priority reads for 2026. I'm gonna say my 26 for 2026 and finishing monthly TBRs that I pull from my physical TBR. My 2026 goal will be reading down my physical TBR and also reading off of my 26 for 2026. I unfortunately will not finish my 25 for 2025, and that's okay. But I do want to make this list a priority. I did make an entire video on my 26 for 2026. It was a different Bookmas day. This is definitely a priority. These are the books that I think I have curated specifically for my new reading taste and how I have used 2025 to kind of figure out what my reading taste is and what I really like in a good book. And my 26 for 2026 is a curated list full of those kind of books. So I think every single book on that list will be a hit, and that is what I want to prioritize along with my physical TBR. Reading that down and figuring out which books that I actually own I want to keep because I love them, and which ones I need to get rid of because either I will never ever read them, or I read them and I won't reread them, or I didn't like them, so I need to give them to somebody who may enjoy them more than me. Book you wish you got to in the year 2025. I have two for this as well. There were two books that I really, really wanted to get to this year. The first, I told my book club I would read, and it is on my 2026 TBR. It is The Poppy War by R.F. Kuang. This book in this series intimidates me so bad, and the text in this book is tiny. And every time I just look at it, it stresses me out just a tad. But I also have heard that it is devastating. And while I like those books, I just had never gotten around to picking this up. So this is definitely a priority for 2026, but I wish I did get to it in 2025 because I kind of forced some of the people in my book club to start this series. Wish I did it with them. The other one was Blood Over Brighthaven by M.L. Wang. I bought this book because it's like dark academia mixed with fantasy and historical fantasy of some kind. It sounds really interesting, and a lot of people with similar taste to me really enjoy this book, so I wanted to get to this to see if I also really enjoy it. Again, didn't get to it, but hopefully in 2026. Now we have just some other general questions, and then we will do some of my favorite quotes of the year. So starting off, we have the longest and shortest book I read this year. I'm not counting novellas because obviously those are going to be short. So the actual shortest book that I read this year was Peter Pan. It came in at 155 pages. So that is the shortest full length novel that I read. And this edition is one of my favorites. I think it's stunning. Peter Pan is my favorite Disney tale and just one of my favorite classic tales. So I had to get this when I saw it. It's stunning. That is the shortest book that I read this year. Moving into my longest book that I read this year, it is Crescent City, House of Earth and Blood. I only read the first book in this series. Not sure if the second or third one is longer than this, but this one comes in at 803 pages. I'm surprised I read all that. I read Kingdom of Ash last year. I don't know why I'm surprised, but this, just looking at this, I'm like, this was the longest book that I read this year. 803 pages, literally a brick. I could build a house out of these. I do want to continue this series in 2026, hopefully. And then the lowest rated and highest rated on my Goodreads, because you can't sort them on Fable or Storygraph. Fable, Storygraph, please allow me to sort like that so I can do this on your app instead. However, the lowest rated that I read all year was Friends at the Museum. It had a 2.98 average rating. I didn't like this book. I actually unhauled this book. I owned it and unhauled it. So I do agree with this. The highest rated book is at a 4.51, and it is Sunrise on the Reaping. This is in my favorites video, and so obviously I agree because this is one of my favorites of the entire year. Suzanne Collins can do no wrong. I love The Hunger Games so much. I'm glad that this is the highest rated book I read all year. I am proud that that is what it is. Seriously, so good. If you haven't picked up the Hunger Games series, if you haven't picked up Sunrise on the Reaping, be prepared for pain, but also so good. So good. This is the best in the series. Argue with a wall. And finally, our last question of the end of the year book tag is some of my favorite quotes. And I'm going to be pulling from these two books, The Bright Years and Bury Our Bones. Oh, look, another Bury Our Bones variant that I own. Wow. Who's shocked? Not me. But I did talk about both of these in my favorites video, but these are the ones that I have annotated that I can just pull quotes from. So you get what you get. I'm just gonna go through and find what I've annotated, and if I like it, we're gonna say, because this is probably my favorite book to pull quotes from, but I also don't want to give away any spoilers, so I'll make sure it's not a spoiler just before I like blurt it out. The living have living to do. That is one of my favorite quotes from this book. The living have living to do. This one is one of my favorite quotes from this book. They are together. These two, this couple is together. And she says, "We're so happy that we pretend otherwise around less happy friends. They have to hide their happiness. That's how happy they are. That's how perfect for each other they are." That's crazy. That's crazy. That quote made me fall in love with this book. "I hold guilt as close as a lover and throw myself entirely into being the best possible mom for Georgette. ... And this is how I manage to miss it as my husband's eyes begin to hollow out like craters. Abuse is much easier to identify when it's not in your own kitchen." No, I'm gonna start sobbing. I'm 70 pages in. I'm not going to go too deep because then it'll start getting spoilery. I basically have underlined every single page in this book. My breath quickens as I understand something. It was our pain that pulled us together like magnets, that medicinal click of solidarity between two hurting people. That's what happened in the library, the restaurant, his mother's house. But as powerful as pain might be, it was never going to keep us together. It grew strong enough to flip the magnets, pushing us apart as forcefully as it had pulled us in. The thing that built us destroyed us, and somehow we didn't see it coming. Yeah, so I could probably read you every single quote that I have underlined in that book because that is some of the most poetic writing I have ever read in my life. Those are some of my favorite quotes. We're also going to talk about some of the quotes from Bury Our Bones because V.E. Schwab's mind is fantastic. So we're going to find some quotes from this too. I flipped through this entire book and I don't want to give too much away. Most of the quotes that I like in this book, I don't want to lose my page, are about the midnight soil and how real it feels as a character in the book. Also, there are many quotes about Orpheus and Eurydice, but you don't understand them without context, so I'm not going to read those. And you also have to understand the Orpheus and Eurydice story to understand the quotes, so I'm not going to read those. I am, however, going to leave you with one quote from this book. Because you are the kind of bloom that thrives in any soil, and who knows, perhaps you will meet a worthy gardener. After all, there is no art without life to inspire it. I love that art always plays a huge aspect in V.E. Schwab's books, and it just makes me so happy. And so that is our one quote from Barrier Bones and the Midnight Soil. Obviously, I liked a lot of them, but I will leave you with one, so that if you have not read it yet, you can go do so, and you can love the book just as much as I do. And that is our last and final question for our end of the year book tag. I hope you really enjoyed this video. I had so much fun planning it. I had so much fun answering the questions and reminiscing on the year 2025. I will have a few more videos of the year with goals and wrap-ups and TBR jars and things like that. So I will see you before the year ends again, but that is all for Bookmas. My first Bookmas is done. That is it. I hope you enjoyed. If this is your first Bookmas video, there is a playlist. There are 12 days of Bookmas. You can go watch every single day. I hope you'll stay a while and subscribe to my channel, because I am a new little booktuber and I want to find my community here. So please like and comment. Comment your favorite cover of 2026. Let me know, and we will discuss in the comments. Thanks so much for joining me this Bookmas season. I hope you have a happy holidays, and if I don't see you, Happy New Year. But I'll hopefully see you guys sometime next week. Bye, guys.